Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to the 14 pillars, the Ahlul Bayt alayhum assalam for everyone, our Muharram special here on Imam Hussein TV, where today we're discussing the important topic of how to serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam. My name is Sayyidah Mahdi and I'm joined by Sister Dua. Sister, assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sister, always a pleasure to be back on with you. Thank you for joining us once again as we continue our discussion in this holy month on Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And what better month to discuss our beloved Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this title of how to serve Imam Hussein is a very important topic to discuss, especially in this holy month. Now the title of being a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Qadim Hussein, is not a title that should be taken lightly. It's a title of great honor, it's a title of great esteem. Now, servitude to Imam Hussein alayhi salam can come in different forms. For example, what we are doing today, being on Imam Hussein TV, whether we are on set or at home, we are lecturing, we are presenting, we are holding majalises, we are teaching our children, we are teaching the community, we are serving the community. You are within mawqibs as well on the walk when doing arba'een. These are all servitude to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. There is no man like Hussein who has inspired millions of people from every corner of the globe. There is no man like Hussein where millions of people flock towards him on the 10th of Muharram for Ashura, or flock towards him for his arba'een. Or throughout the year we yearn to be with Hussein alayhi salam. There is no man, there is no individual, there is no personality like him. Serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam should never be taken lightly. It's a gift bestowed upon us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you need to serve him with humility, with humbleness. Don't show pride or arrogance. Remember, this is given to you from Allah. Allah can take it away as well. Be patient, be forgiving, and have your pure niyyah and your pure intention only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your akhlaq and your mannerism needs to be such, because we know that on the day of resurrection, your akhlaq and your mannerism, who you are, how you treat people, will have one of the greatest weights on the scales on the day of resurrection. And there is no better individual than our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who had the akhlaq and the mannerism, the best of akhlaq. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran in Surah 68 verse 4 says, "Oh you Muhammad, you are the best example to mankind for akhlaq, for mannerism, for good deeds." So we learn from our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And we try and emulate those characteristics, that akhlaq, that mannerism of the holy household when serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Now, like I said, serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the greatest of titles which we cannot take for granted. And we've just touched upon the few ways that we should be when we are a true servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Let's open up today's discussion by looking at what are those characteristics, what are those mannerisms that a true servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam should have, especially in this holy month.
When this holy month approaches, you'll see people who yearn to serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Those who have never entered the mosque, they begin to come to the mosques. Those who, they don't show up in majalis in regularly other occasions. They come into the majalis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and they're humble. They want to serve. They want to be part of this khidmah, this service. And it's an honor. It's a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to be part of the servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Now, there are things that we need to keep in mind, because you'll always see people from around the world, they come and they want to serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But the number of how many of those who serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam are in millions. This number doesn't matter. It matters those who not begin to serve, but those who continue to the end. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, he says, وَعْبُدْ رَبُّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيكَ الْيَقِينَ. Serve your Lord until the end. He says al-yaqeen means death. You'll have a lot of people who, will start open up, organizations and, groups to serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to make events. in this month of Muharram and throughout the year. But how many of those organizations remain to the end? To death. Sometimes you see people, they close up that organization. Some people begin to read Nohas, Latum. And then you'll see them a couple of years later, they stopped from serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You'll see people who work in the community, they're there every day. And like 1 year, you'll find them that they're not there anymore and they're not serving anymore. It's like entering university. It doesn't matter how many people enter university. It matters those who graduate. It doesn't matter how many people enter medical school. It matters how many of those who graduate from medical school. It doesn't matter how many people apply and enter Hawza. It matters of those who continue the studies to the end. Because sometimes it gets repetitive, sometimes it gets boring. Some people drop out, some people stop. So the amount of how many of those who serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it doesn't matter. It matters those who continue to the end. So one thing that we must keep in mind, us as servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, is that we must continue to the end. To the end. Because this task of serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we will face so many obstacles. So much issues. You'll have social issues, you'll have financial issues, you'll have health issues, so much issues, whatever it is, you have to absorb it all. Sometimes people who open up organizations, they're serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they will face financial issues. Sometimes they ask for donations and no one donates for them. Sometimes they want to make events, but they cannot continue because they have financial issues. Serve to the end. Never give up. Even if it was something very simple that you're doing, never close down. To the end. It doesn't matter how many people open up organizations. It doesn't matter how many Husseyniyat there is. It matters those who remain serving to the end. So that's something that we should keep in mind of a khadim, the servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Once you serve, you must keep in mind that I'm going to face plenty of obstacles. And no matter what these obstacles are, I'm going to face them and absorb them and continue to the end. That's the first thing. I'll give you an example of a scholar who went through financial difficulties in serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this scholar, he says that I lived in the lifetime of Abdul Karim Qasim in Iraq. The president of Iraq was Abdul Karim Qasim. Abdul Karim Qasim, he had a way to absorb the clergies. So he said that any clergy would come and apply to a government exam and do this exam. If they pass, they can be a teacher, at schools or university, and he gave them a very satisfying wage. This scholar said, I had financial issues. I couldn't, spend on my family. I need to live. And at that time, he didn't have a job. And, this khidmah didn't bring him any wealth. So he said, I thought of it one day. I was like, you know what? Because the path of this government was not the path of Ahl Bayt. It was against Ahl Bayt. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to go, not tell my wife, not tell my siblings, not tell my children. I'm going to go tomorrow morning. I'm going to apply to this government test. I'm going to do it, work as a teacher in the mornings. In the evenings, I serve Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. He didn't tell anyone. He got up the morning. He's on his way to do that test. Some man stops him. And he says to him, Shaykhna, I saw a dream and I want an interpretation for this dream. So he says to him, sure, go ahead, but quickly because I have something to do. He says, I saw in my dream the commander of the faithful, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and I saw him speaking to you, telling you, give me my turban and take your sidara. Sidara is basically a cap or something on top of the cap that the teachers used to wear at that time. So Imam Ali alayhi salam says, you want to serve them? Give me my turban. You cannot serve my enemies and then come serve me. You cannot serve the shaitan and then come serve me. He said, I went back home and I told him, thank you. This message is for me, it's not for you. He said, yeah, Shaykhna, what is the interpretation? He's like, no, it's a message for me. He said, I went back home and from that I absorbed the difficulties, the financial difficulties, and I served Ahlul Bayt to the end. So this is an example. Now, I'm not telling you do not, have a part-time job, do not work with a government, just serve Ahlul Bayt. No, now we need to have a job, we need to have a career, we need to provide for our families. But what we can take from this message is that when you want to serve Ahlul Bayt, you cannot serve the shaitan. You cannot serve the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. For example, you cannot go to work, for example, at a job where there's wine and liquor and alcohol, and then come at night, evening, serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It doesn't work like that. You either serve Ahlul Bayt or serve the shaitan. Some people, their jobs, their wealth comes from haram money, haram income. You cannot do that and then come back in the evening and serve Ahlul Bayt. Sometimes, no, you go to work, you go to your daily lifestyle, and you commit so much sins, and you're surrounded by sins, and you're committing them on purposely, and you're happy with that, and then you come at nighttime and you serve Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. It doesn't work like that. Once you serve Ahlul Bayt, you have to keep in mind that Ahlul Bayt want you to serve them. Revive their message, not to serve the opposite, the enemies, the shaitan, and then come at night and serve them. Because this is what we need to keep in our mind. We're going to face obstacles, we're going to keep it in our mind. You know, we read in our du'as, Allahumma wala taslubni salih ma an'amta bihi alayh. Oh Allah, do not deprive me the good that you have given me. This khidmah, this service is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an honor. You know, with one sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know what, give it back. You don't deserve it. One small sin. So the first thing we need to keep in mind is to continue to the end. The second thing we need to keep in mind is not to serve the shaitan, the enemies. When you're at work, when you're in school, you're in uni, you're in your daily lifestyle, doing whatever you're doing, you need to keep in your mind that I'm the servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I cannot do this. I cannot speak a certain way. I cannot act a certain way. Because you're the servant. This is something we need to keep in mind, because we will be deprived this khidmah. Sometimes we do a small sin that no longer we're serving. Either an illness prevents us, either a family issue prevents us, anything prevents us. And the other thing we need to keep in mind is we must absorb every issue, especially if it was like social issues. You know, if we're like in an organization, we're working in mosque, we're working around people, you will face, you know, social issues. You need to absorb them. You need to have patience. You know, sometimes you see people, their khidmah, their service is not a good way. No akhlaq, no morals. Who are you serving? Who are you serving? You see sometimes people, they're in mosques and they're yelling at the guests of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But you are the servant of Imam Hussein. They are the guests of Imam Hussein. You're serving them. You know, it's like you go to a restaurant and, you know, at a restaurant, you call a waitress, her or him, or a she, and you'd say, you know what, I need to something on my menu, I need to order. So the waitress comes and says, you know, okay, what do you want? And then you'll be like, I want this main dish, I want this side dish, I want this drink. And then you go, never mind, you know, change it. I want this something else. And then they'll write something else, and then you'll do it again. And then you'll be like, and they'll be like, you know what, we're busy, I'll come back to you. Think of what you want. And they go and they don't come back. And then you wait and wait for them, and then you fall into a dispute and an issue. And then what you do as a guest, you will leave, you will complain to the manager, and you will give them a bad review, and the manager will come and say, you don't have morals, you don't have patience. We lost a customer, we got a bad review, and they complained. You are serving them. You need to be patient. You will have people who will step on your nerves. You will have people who, for example, if you are a community and you're serving like in an organization, and you say, you know, we booked a hall, and this hall only caters 300 people. For those of you who want to enter and, you know, be a guest, book online. You'll have someone who won't book online. You need to absorb everything. You'll have someone who, you know, you're giving out tabarruk food, and someone who will be like, you know, I want two. And you've counted that you want to make sure everyone gets. You are serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his akhlaq was akhlaq Rasulullah, the morals of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. The Holy Prophet, I mean the Imam, when he, let me say this again. The Imam alayhi salam, Imam Hussein, when he saw the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad and Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. The army of Hur was the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad. And he served them and quenched them water one by one, even their horses, even their camels. And Imam Hussein knew that they will not quench him a drop of water. They would not quench Abdullah al-Radi', his infant, a drop of water. He did not say, I'm not going to quench them water, they're going to do the same thing to me. He knew that they will not serve him water and quench him water. But he quenched them one by one, and his family was thirsty. This is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When we serve him, we need to be like him. You'll have people who will be rude, disrespectful. They will step on your nerves. But if you consider yourself as a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you need to be like Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You need to follow his morals, his akhlaq. Be nice. Be like, okay, you know, I'm going to leave this up to Imam Hussein. I'm serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Let them deal with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Not you, because you're serving. You know, sometimes you hear people that they will never attend mosques, and you tell them why, and they'll complain. And they are the youth. They are those who we need to absorb and bring them. You know, we need to bring them to this path. We sometimes, as servants, we kick them out. Without we're not akhlaq. Imagine we meet Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and we tell him, oh Hussein, we're your servants. And he says, no, you're not. And we say, yeah, we served you for 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 years. And he says, your name is not written in my book of servants. And you say, how come? And he says, you had bad akhlaq. You gave me a bad review. People did not enter the youth were lost because of you. So we need to keep that in mind, that no matter how many people step on those nerves, we need to use akhlaq Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because we will be deprived this khidmah. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes we see people that they stop serving. And you tell them why. They're like, oh, there's a dispute that happened between so-and-so, me and someone, and I never served anymore. وَعْبُدْ رَبُّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيكَ الْيَقِينُ. We must keep in our minds that when we serve, we're going to be patient. We're going to absorb all the issues, financial issues, social status, anything. People can gossip about you. Let them gossip about you. You're going to continue. You're serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Let people talk and say what they want to say. It's okay. You know, you are serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Sometimes you enter mosque, you see people don't say salam to each other. Why? Because they're mad at each other. You're in the house of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. If you're a servant, if you want this title, you use akhlaq al-Hussein. Imam Hussein alayhi salam quenched his enemy's water. You go in and you say salam to everybody. You go in and you smile to everyone, no matter what the dispute is. You're in the house of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You know, and this is one of the reasons sometimes we're deprived. This khidmah, this blessing is because of our morals, of our akhlaq. So first thing we need to keep in our mind is that when we're serving, we're going to keep in our mind, we're not serving just this year, not just next year. We're going to serve to the end. The second thing that we should keep in mind is that when we serve Ahlul Bayt, we don't serve the enemies. We don't serve, you know, the shaitan, everything that's haram. No, we're serving Ahlul Bayt. Two, we need to carry this title properly. And we need to serve the servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And any dispute, we'll absorb it to the end.
Absolutely. And when you say we serve and we serve Imam Hussein till the very end, we forget this. You know, we think, okay, this Muharram, I've recited majalises, I've attended majalises, I've helped in the centres. Okay, I've done my part. And then for the whole year, we're silent. And then, okay, the next Muharram comes and we start again. We forget that we need to continue to be the servant of Imam Hussein. If we want that true title, we need to continue throughout the year, every day. And you know, service doesn't have to be such a huge service, even something within your homes, service towards your neighbors, service towards your family members. That is also service to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It always depends on your niyat. And very rightfully so, you said that if you are a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you can't just come and be a certain way within the center that you're serving in. For example, you are serving at night, you act with akhlaq and mannerism, but throughout the rest of the day, in your working life, you are rude, you are unjust, you are unkind. No, you have to uphold that service. You have to uphold that name of Hussein throughout the day, throughout the year, wherever you are. You have to have a certain characteristic and a certain mannerism to be called that servant of Hussein. And just like we said, it takes patience, it takes humility, it takes humbleness. I'll give you a very short example before we go to the next question, which is, for example, when I teach in the madrasas and I lecture the children, you know, when lecturing children and when teaching children, when being around many children, it does take patience. But it's a true blessing to be around them because they're ma'soom, they're pure, they're sin-free. These are young children. And we forget often as teachers that when we go to the centers, you know, every day in Muharram or every day in Ramadan or whenever we are there on a shahadat and a wiladat, we think that, yes, it is tiring. Yes, it does take time to prepare the lectures. Yes, it does take time to prepare the activities that we do for the children. But like you rightfully said, if the youth are not attending the madrasas or the community centers, we will be questioned by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We will be questioned by Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. What have we done as the elders of the community? Have we brought the youth into the community or have we taken them away? So even as teachers, it takes patience, but it's the huge and the biggest of blessing to be able to serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And often we forget those merits involved in being this of service, being that Qadim Hussein. We forget that merits because we get used to the day and day. You know, sometimes it becomes like a habit and we don't actually stop and think what we're doing. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has given a beautiful example. Once he was telling his companions and he held up his two fingers and he put them close together and he said that the true servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and the true servant of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam will be like this on the day of judgment. where the servant will be so close to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam, especially the servant of Imam Hussein. And he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam an elevated position where they will be able to take their true servants with them into paradise. And this is what we want. This is what we want to try and emulate in our lives, and we teach our children as well, where being a servant is a blessing, of course. We can't take that for granted. But being a true servant is of a different level. So in this next part of the episode, let's have a look at the next question as to what are the merits and what are the benefits and the blessings involved in being a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, not just for us in this world, but for our barzakh and for our akhirah as well, inshallah.
You know, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he has a narration where he says, إِنَّ الَّذِي يَلِي حِسَابَ النَّاسِ قَبْلَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ هُوَ الْحُسَيْنُ بْنُ عَلِي. The one that will do the hisab before the day of resurrection is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Imam Hussein alayhi salam everything. And I've said that one time, but I never really explained what everything is. So inshallah, throughout these nights, every time I mention what everything is, or some of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Imam Hussein, I will say this is part of everything. Allah has given Imam Hussein alayhi salam everything. The love of the believers, the merits of those who cry and shed tears on him, and serving him as well. And he's given him in the day of barzakh that he will do the hisab before the day of resurrection. Those who go to hell and those who go to heaven. Those who serve him, he will honor them. And those who did not serve him, or those who doubted in his servings, doubted in his in crying on him and mourning on him, those who doubt in him, or those who served him, but they served him in a wrong way. They kicked people out from this, from entering these majlis. He will punish them. He will speak to them. Why did you do that? Why did you kick people out from my majlis and my Husayniyah? Why did you make people cry? Why did you destroy people's reputation in my house, in my Husayniyah? You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Imam Hussein alayhi salam these homes. These are the homes of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The Husayniyat in this world are all the homes of Imam Hussein. This is what Allah has given him. Have you ever seen anyone throughout history who has homes as much as Imam Hussein alayhi salam does? Nobody. Only Imam Hussein. Those Husayniyat are the houses of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You know, only in Bahrain I've heard that there's 1,000 Husayniyah. Imagine how many Husayniyat are there around the world. How many homes are opened to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They are the houses of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So when you're in that house, it's not your house. It's in the house of Imam Hussein. You will either be honored from Imam Hussein alayhi salam or be punished. You know, and there are a lot of merits. You know, in the barzakh, basically, you will see your deeds. Your deeds will come to you. Imam Hussein will visit you. You know, we know that in the life of barzakh, everything we see is from our deeds. So imagine you spend all your life serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You're going to see that there. You're going to see Imam Hussein there. You will be in a position, in a place with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. If you visit him, he will visit you. As much as you visit him, he will come back and visit you. So there are merits, there are benefits. Even if you examine people today, if you interview them and tell them, for example, what have you benefited from serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Those who served him for 70 years, 80 years, they will tell you, I saw barakah in my life. I was able to absorb the calamities and the misfortunes. Imam Hussein has given me barakah in my children, barakah in my wealth, barakah in my life. My life has a meaning. I've done something. Sometimes your life passes by, you have no barakah. Sometimes a year passes by and you don't remember what you did in this year because I had no barakah. Imam Hussein brings barakah in people's lives. There was this Sayyid, very great scholar, Abdul Hussein Sabzawari, very well-known scholar. All the scholars know him. You know, scholars, when they serve, you know, Islam, the religion of Islam. They serve Ahlul Bayt, of course, as well. And, you know, they talk about ahkam al-fiqh, you know, they teach interpretation of the Holy Quran here and there. Sayyid Abdul Hussein Sabzawari said, I saw in my dream, and this dream shows you that this hadith, إِنَّ الَّذِي يَلِي حِسَابَ النَّاسِ قَبْلَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ هُوَ الْحُسَيْنُ بْنُ عَلِي, the one who will control the hisab before the day of resurrection is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This dream shows you that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and this hadith is so accurate and it's authentic. He says that I saw in my dream that I was standing in a lineup, a long queue. And the one who was standing was a man. He was very handsome Sayyid. And this lineup was very long and it was going by slow. He said, I looked on the other side, I saw another lineup, another queue. But those people were going by very quickly. The other man, who's also a Sayyid, very handsome, he was opening their books of their deeds and, overlooking their errors and their sins and making them pass by very quickly. So he said, I stood. None of us like to stand up in a long queue and a long wait up. We all want to go by quickly. So he said, I asked the man in my dream who was standing beside me, I said, what is this long wait up for? He said, this long wait up is for the ulama, the scholars. Is there something haram? And this man over there who's leading is Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam. Is there a fiqh question that was haram and you said it was halal? Explain to the Imam. Why did you say it was halal when it was haram? Something that was halal and you said it was haram? Explain to the Imam. Why? So there's a long wait up for the ulama. This Sayyid Abdul Hussein Sabzawari said, I want to be in that line. How can I be? Who are those? He said, those are the servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He's letting them pass by quickly. We all have sins. He overlooks their sins. Go, go, go. He said, I want to be on that line. He said, you have to look in your hand. Is there a stamp that says Khadim al-Hussein, the servant of Hussein? He said, in my dream, I looked, I couldn't find anything. He said, I woke up spontaneously. He went to the masjid. He usually goes and gives, fiqh, ahkam, tafsir al-Quran. With not saying anything, he sat on the pulpit and he revived the message of Hussein. He read a story, what happened to Hussein. He cried, people cried. After he was done, the majlis, people were surprised. You're a scholar, you usually don't read nawhas, latums, and revive the message of Hussein. Why did you do that today? And it wasn't even the month of Muharram. He said, I saw this and this in my dream. And I wanted the stamp. I didn't want to stand in a long wait up as the ulama and be questioned by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. I wanted to run how those people on the other side serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They run, they pass by. And this Sayyid is a very well-known Sayyid, Abdul Hussein Zabzawari. A lot of scholars narrate about him. And this shows you that this hadith that Imam Sadiq says that إِنَّ الَّذِي يَلِي حِسَابَ النَّاسِ قَبْلَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ هُوَ الْحُسَيْنِ ibn Ali. He will do your hisab. So how... we want to be his servants. And we must be careful as well when we're serving him. We must serve him in a good way. We must serve him and give the best examples, because then if we're not, he's going to stop us and say, why did you do that? So there are a lot of merits in the day of Barzakh, in the day of Qiyamah, and in this life. Most likely in this life. No one who has served Imam Hussein alayhi salam has not felt this honor. Usually when you're a servant, you feel humiliated. If you work in a hotel, in a service department, if you work as cleaning department and you're serving, if you're waitress, you feel humiliated. You feel yelled at and cursed. But when you're serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you'll never see that. You'll never see that. You'll always see people who will give you this honor. And this is because Imam Hussein alayhi salam wants it for you, wants it for those who serve him.
It's very true. Like we opened up when we said to be a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a title that we need to not take lightly, but it's a title which is the best of titles. To serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the greatest of blessings. And like you said, our life will be full of blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, full of mercy, full of barakah from Allah in this life. In our barzakh, when we are in our graves alone, this blessings that we have from Imam Hussein, because we served him in this life, will come back to greet us in Barzakh. And on the day of Akhirah, inshallah, we want to be on that short line. We want to be on that line that goes straight into heaven, inshallah, because we've got that seal, that stamp of approval from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But we need to remember that being a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam comes with responsibilities. We need to be patient in what we do. We need to be humble. We need to do what we do with humility, because Imam Hussein alayhi salam will question us. Those entering the masjids, entering the majalises for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we are not doing them a favor. They are doing us a favor. They are doing us a favor because we are given that blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have that gift to serve. So don't think that if you were ever helping somebody, you were doing them a favor. They are doing you a favor because you were able to help them. And, we often think that, only by lecturing, or only by presenting, or only by doing an esteemed title can you be the servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We often forget, and I'll give you another example of myself. So, for example, when I go to the madrasas or the Hussainiyas to lecture and to teach the children, it's those core values, those communities, those volunteers that are the foundation and the base of that masjid, of that Hussainiya, of that Islamic center. We forget about those people who open up the centers, who close the centers, who cook the food, who serve the food, who make the tea, who are in the car park day in, day out, in the heat, in the cold, in the rain, in the sun, who eat there, they listen to their majalises there. We forget about those individuals who serve and strive every single day, and we are in the comfort of the inside of the masjid. I'm in the comfort of the inside of the classroom. But we forget about those volunteers who are running around continuously to make sure that the majalis is running. And it's those qadims, those servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who are those true servants, who do it because of the love of Hussein. So my next question to you, dear sister, is, in our busy lives, we forget about those true servants, those things that those individuals do which are overlooked. What can we say about this?
You know, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he will honor them. This is all we need, an honor from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the deeds, the blessings. You know, we can be servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and it's not really, the khidmah is linked only to reading lectures or nawhas and latman and being in the eye, you know, like the eyes are on you and you're in the comfort, as you said. No, those who serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who, you know, are cooks, they're catering, they're cleaning, those who are serving their homes, anything today that you can do, you're serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. A lot of people think, no, you know, I want to serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but I don't know how to read lectures. You don't have to. Some people say, I don't have a good voice to read nawhas, latum, you know, melodies. You don't have to. That's not only the servants. It's not only limited to these kind of things. Serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam can be you, for example, entering the mosque, and you don't have to be in part of the organization. You can go help them with not even saying anything to people. Just you make a contract with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I'm coming to the mosque for these 10 days of Muharram, and I'm going to clean the tissues on the ground. You don't have to be part of the organization if they don't welcome you. You're serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Behind the scenes, no one has to know. No one has to find out. You clean and pick up. Stack some chairs. You can help. The one who's part of the organization, who's serving there, you can help without them even knowing that you're the one who did this job. You know, so a lot of people think that, no, it's only linked to being part of an organization or to be part of, you know, reading and lectures and stuff. This is good. This is also a service is good. But some people, they want to serve, but they don't know how to serve. They want to be part of this khidmah. You know, the least that you can do is, you know, if you have a car, a vehicle, and you know a friend of yours or a neighbor of yours, they cannot go to this mosque. You know, maybe the bus doesn't arrive at that certain time or this area of the mosque. You have a car. Use your car, pick a couple people up and say, Ya Hussein, I am serving you this holy month of Muharram, and I'm going to always serve you with my car. Anyone who needs a pickup, I'll pick them up. Anyone who needs me to drop them up, I'll drop them up. You don't have to tell people that I'm going to serve him in this way. This is a contract you make with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The niyyah is important, the intention. So you tell him, Ya Hussein, I'm going to pick up a couple of guests and I'm going to drop them off, and this is my khidmah to you. I want to be a servant for you. You know, sometimes we overlook this kind of khidmah. Sometimes, you know, if someone tells us, drop us off, pick us up, we feel like, you know, we have to do that. No, it's a khidmah. You're serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You're allowing people who are not able to attend physically, not just on internet. It's important to attend physically and gather around. So there are these kind of things that we overlook them. So anything that you want to do, you can do. The least you can do to become a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is even between you and yourself. You sit down, you read what happened to Imam Hussein, you mourn, you cry, you shed tears, you're khadim. Do that every day. Do that every year. You're serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And the best examples of serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam is those who revive his message. Even if you do nothing, but you revive the message by your manners, your akhlaq, your morals, you become a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're reviving the message of Hussein, you're a servant of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So there are things that, you know, sometimes we wait to be thanked by people, or to be looked at by people, or to be honored by people. But we need to, it doesn't matter. You're going to be honored by Imam Hussein alayhi salam, whether you're in the spotlight or whether you're behind the scenes. You're all khuddam. You're all serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Even if you're not given that title, no one gives it to you. Imam Hussein gives it to you. Sometimes, we might be in the day of resurrection and Imam Hussein alayhi salam gives us that snap, gives us the khidmah, and you're like, really, me? How? When? You don't know yourself. You've been serving, but you were not part of a community. You've been serving, but no one knows you. No one says that you are a servant. It doesn't matter what people say. It matters the niyyah that you make, the intention that you make, you and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and you serve him.
Absolutely, and I really like the way that you said that you're making a contract between you and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and nobody else needs to be involved in that. And even, for example, if you go to the Husseiniya and you're not part of that organization that is the volunteer organization to look after the center, you can make that contract, you can make that niyat. You can promise Imam Hussein alayhi salam that even without people knowing, I'm going to clean the center, I'm going to look after the people in the center. Like you said, and I really like that example. It's the simple things which we forget that we're doing in our everyday lives, and we don't realize that this is also being a servant of Imam Hussein. Simple example of giving people lifts and reviving the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in your own home. Like we said before, with the children in your own home, teaching them as well the true message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Because if you don't teach them, how will they learn? So teach your children first before you go and teach the outside community. Revive the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in your home first before you go and do it outside. When Muharram comes, put out the black flags, put out the alams. Teach your children in those very small ways, because if you don't teach them at home, how will they go and learn? And how will they go and teach other people as well? And how will they uphold that message? Now, in the last few minutes, I just want to have a look at your akhlaq, your niyat, when you are serving the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam. And I'll give you a very simple example. And when I speak for myself first. None of us are pure, we have sins, and we have to try and improve ourselves and better ourselves every day. So for example, if I'm doing a task, I always say, and I try and make that niyat, that I'm doing this for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I do this as a gift to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam, especially the Imam of our time, and I do it for the marhumin. So that is my niyat, in order for me to try and, whatever task, any simple thing that I'm doing, to try and better that and elevate that task with my niyat. So in these last few minutes that we have remaining, how important is our niyat and our intention when serving the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam?
Niyyah is always important. It's important in everything. Even in salah. One of the ahkam of salah, that if your intention has hypocrisy, it's not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your salah is void. It's batil. The day you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you stand before Him, Allah gives you the book of your deeds, it has no salah, you're like, Allah, I prayed for 70 years. I never even skipped a salah. And Allah says, no, you never prayed. It is not written down. It's batil, it's void. Your intention had hypocrisy. Go take your deeds from those who you intended to pray for. Sometimes, we go and we say, okay, we're praying in public. And usually maybe our salah is faster than usual. And in public, the shaitan comes and whispers in our ears and says, pray slowly. People are watching, pray slowly. And then we begin to pray slowly because people are watching. Void. Salah is batil. Here our ulama say that fight the shaitan. Say, no, I'm praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to pray the way I'm going to pray. I'm going to fix my salah in public and behind the scenes as well. In my khalwa when I'm at home. Because the shaitan will sometimes come and whisper in your ears so that you can leave the whole deed. So that you don't even do this good deed. So that you say, I'm not serving humbly. I have a bad intention. I'm not going to come here serve anymore. I'm not going to pray anymore in public, and I'm not going to pray till I go home. And by the time you're home, it's qada. The time has passed by because you don't want to pray in public because you're afraid of having hypocrisy and your salah is void. The ulama here say, fight it with the shaitan. Redo your intention over and over and over and over again. So we know from this that our salah without intention is not even accepted, right? So the intention has to be niyyah, a very good niyyah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, humbly, purely for Allah. You know, whatever you do, you come in the first row to pray Salat Jama'ah every time in the mosque, you're praying it for Allah. Sometimes we begin to pray for Allah, but then the shaitan makes us fall down. People around me watching. People have seen me here for years praying in the mosque, so I'm here for people. And then we lose that intention. But we began humbly serving with a great intention. So it's very important to always do your niyyah. Redo it every single day, no matter what deed you do. When it comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it's the same thing. Your niyyah is so important. Because if you're here to serve, to show people, then Imam Hussein will say, go take it from the people. People honored you. You had it in this world. You had your honor in this world. You wanted people to say good things about you and be well known in the community. You had it. What else do you want from me? I want an honor from you. You had it in the world. You got what you want. You didn't want anything from me. So some people begin with a not pure intention. This is the month of Muharram. Redo your intention just for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Some people know I want to be popular. Some people know it's a career for me. Some people is like, I'm bored. I couldn't do anything in my life useful, and I found myself I'm able to serve, and I'm in the spotlight, and I'm being honored. Is that your intention? Redo your intention. Because yes, you will serve in this year, in the life that you live in this world, but in the hereafter, Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, you know, you got what you wanted, and you're full of sins. So what else do you want from me? And you say, I was your servant. He's like, no, you're not my servant. Your name wasn't written down. So it's very important that attention, it becomes void. Sometimes what happens is that we begin with a pure intention, but then throughout the khidmah, we fall into a test. That test reveals our intention. It's so important to, when you fall through that test. Sometimes you see people at a mosque, you know, and it always happens in events where there's more than one servant. Someone been serving at a mosque for 10 years, another one for 20 years, another one for 5 years, another one for 2 years. And then everyone will be honored except the one that's been serving for a very long time. And you see this person crying and shedding tears and feeling sad. Why are you sad? They gave certificates and gifts for everyone. They mentioned everyone's name, but they didn't mention me. But wait, were you serving for this? Their intention from the beginning was for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but sometimes these tests, they shake us. Redo your intention. Don't, until you become into a stage where it doesn't bother you. Sometimes it'll bother you, number one. First day it'll bother you, the next year it'll bother you, and then there will be a time it won't even bother you because you grounded, you trained yourself that I'm here for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When someone doesn't mention me, I always be happy. Yes. People get invited to places, they don't invite you. Yes, they forgot me. Why? I don't want just to become, you know, with the public and around people and be honored and thanked and welcomed and given this title. This is not what I'm serving for. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, if he gives it for me, good. So sometimes, you know, you see people, they get sad and they're like, why did you leave this mosque? Why did you leave this khidmah? Why did you leave serving? And they're like, yeah, I've been serving this place for 10 years. They mention someone's name, that person's been serving for 2 years, and they're honoring them, and they're giving them dignity, and they're giving them, you know, justice, and me, they forget me. And you're like, really? But is that why you were serving in the first place? It shouldn't even bother you, because you don't want to take the honor from them. You know, so this intention, sometimes we're shaked up, you know, we're put in a test, and it reveals what's inside of us. Sometimes you're serving for 20 years, and you're sincere. But then in one situation, you show that this 10, 20 years was not really sincere. So our ulama say, don't leave the good deed. Don't say, okay, you know what, I have hypocrisy, I'm not going to serve anymore. Redo your intention over and over again. Say to yourself, no, I'm here for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I shouldn't be mad. I shouldn't be happy when they honor me. I shouldn't be sad when people forget me. This is for Hussein, until you train yourself and you kick the shaitan, because the shaitan has his throwings. He wants you to leave this khidmah. So what does he do? He makes you sad and mad and angry on these silly things, and he removes your intention. So our ulama say, stay, but rebuild your intention. Redo it again and again until you train yourself that it no longer bothers you. So intention is very important. Inshallah, you know, in this month of Muharram, Safar, and throughout our years, every deed we do is just for Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
You know, as humans, sometimes we want gratification. We want somebody to say thank you to us. It's natural. It's a human instinct. We want, you know, if you've worked hard, you want somebody to appreciate and recognize what you've done and say thank you to you. But it's very true, you know, if we realize that actually what we're doing, we're going to be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam sees what we're doing, and we just keep on rechecking our intention, then that gratification from humans will become worthless for us. And in fact, sometimes we don't even want it, because you don't want that. You know, sometimes if somebody praises you and says thank you to you, shaitan enters your mind and you start to become proud, and you don't want that arrogance. So sometimes it's probably better not to have that gratification from humans, because you know that your intention is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to serve the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam. And the example you gave of namaz, where your intention and your niyat is so important. And scholars actually often tell us that, you know, shaitan affects us all. The whispers of shaitan affect us all, especially he sees who is that mu'min, who is that true believer, who is trying their hardest, to concentrate in namaz. Shaitan wants to come and attack them, wants to come and whisper in their ears. And scholars tell us to speak to your nafs, to speak to yourself daily, to try and fight that shaitan, that inner voice that you have, to try and banish that shaitan away. And only by doing that will we be able to keep our niyat and our intention in check. And only by doing that, with whatever deed we do in our life, whether we are at work or whether we are in the Hussainiyas or whether we are outside amongst friends, your akhlaq, your niyat, your intention, your mannerism must, as to the best of your ability, reflect that of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Thank you, dear sister, once again for joining us. It's always a pleasure to be on set with you, and I myself learn the greatest from you. And inshallah, in this holy month, we use this month to better ourselves. We use this month to keep our intentions in check, to take a step back and look at ourselves. What are we doing? Can we improve ourselves? Are we being the true servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? And are we upholding that message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in our lives, in our homes, and in the lives of our children as well, inshallah. Thank you, dear viewers at home, for watching us. We pray for the shifa of all the marid around the world, and we pray for the eternal safety and quick reappearance of our beloved Imam Zamana alayhi salam. Until next time, dear viewers, thank you for watching. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.